Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. We'll kick off today's episode with a bit of comedy. The Financial Times is reporting that a group of big pension funds has demanded that Elon spend at least 40 hours a week at Tesla. They're calling for corporate governance reforms to address a crisis at Tesla. This letter was signed by 12 long-term institutional investors, including the New York City Comptroller, the American Federation of Teachers, and a few others, but the only number you need to know, the signers of this letter only hold 0.25% of Tesla's shares. Translation, all of these funds combined hold less than $2.8 billion of Tesla stock. They did not share specifics of what they deem a crisis, but I'm guessing it has to do with the sales data and the headlines and the recent financial performance. Not of the stock, but of Tesla's profitability. But don't worry, there's a reason I'm sharing this, and this is where the comedy comes in. The New York City Comptroller voted against Elon's pay package. The American Federation of Teachers voted against Elon's pay package. And I'm quite confident some of the other funds in this group followed suit. So what we have here is these funds demanding Elon work 40 hours a week at Tesla while he basically earns nothing because technically he hasn't been paid since before 2018. His 2018 pay package is still completely in the air and he definitely does not have a new one yet. I'm sure some people would push back and say, well, he has plenty of Tesla stock, so it doesn't matter. Well, if that's your attitude, I know some of you have company stock where you work, and that would be like them taking away your salary because, you know what, you actually have enough of our company stock. Not a single person should be on board with that theory. But I thought that was a good segue to this. In case you missed it, Elon did say back to spending 24/7 at work and sleeping in conference server factory rooms. I must be super focused on X and XAI and Tesla as we have critical technologies rolling out. So ironically, the demands of those funds are likely to be met by Elon, but not because of what they did, but because of Elon's decision before that letter was even written. Elon said over the weekend he probably spent too much time on politics, but he has since course corrected, and now he's back to being a technologist. Tesla is now one step closer to opening a factory in Adelaide in South Australia. Last night, the City of Marion Council voted to seek state government approval to sell the site to a developer that will build a battery repurposing factory, plus a showroom and servicing facilities. They said 95% of the submissions for community feedback called for this application to be rejected. Of course, there were some air quotes environmental concerns and some anti-Elon sentiment. The factory, if it makes it through, will be used to recover and recycle Tesla's batteries. Some of the environmental concern was about trees in the region, but no surprise, Tesla has already committed to replacing more trees than it would be required to, as well as keeping at least 3 of 4 significant trees on site. A state government spokesperson said the proposal would now be considered by the local government minister. Again, this is all so backwards to me. The locals fight against this factory that would provide over 100 jobs and get us closer toward a sustainable future, yet they're vehemently opposed because of Elon's efforts to save America. Now, do these people not understand vehicle emissions harm these trees that they're concerned about? From what I read, Adelaide specifically has dense traffic, exacerbating these concerns. A problem supporting electric vehicles and Tesla gets us away from. But I digress. It sounds like this factory should be approved despite the opposition, and this is another talking point the next time somebody tells you that Tesla's batteries just get thrown away at the end of life. BMW, Mercedes, and VW are currently seeking tariff relief, and in exchange, they could invest billions in the United States. They're asking for a tariff mechanism that would basically offset imports and exports. But the other part of that quid pro quo was not specified. The aim is for them to agree on a deal by early July. J.D. Power put out a new study this month going over EV consideration. The study measures responses from just over 8,100 people who intend to buy or lease a new vehicle in the next 12 months. It was conducted from January through April this year. The executive director said despite the market volatility, EVs have found a solid ground for consumer consideration. Charging station availability remains the top concern concern, with 52% of shoppers citing it as a reason for rejecting EVs. And I think they nailed it. This points to a lack of progress in consumer education on these issues. And if you're in the camp that Tesla needs to be advertising these things, then this is really just salt in your wounds. They said younger consumers are the most receptive to EVs, but they're also the least likely to be able to afford them. So yes, Tesla's more affordable models can't come soon enough. And despite people like Gary Black thinking these more affordable models won't move the needle, I certainly disagree with that viewpoint. For me, it's pretty simple. Will these new models cannibalize some Model Y and 3 sales? Yes, absolutely. But the expansion of the addressable market with the lower price point should open it up much more. And for the year-over-year change, the study revealed that 24% of vehicle shoppers say they're very likely to consider buying an EV, and 35% say they're somewhat likely, both of which remain unchanged from 1 year ago. The lovely Alexandra put together a really nice article talking about Robin Denholm and her stock sales. There's been a lot of controversy around these in months past. The one point I wanted to get across, you may remember Tesla's board had a settlement where they had to basically give back almost $1 billion in board compensation. So what that means is a non-trivial amount of Robin Denholm's stock sales over the past few months are actually going to pay Tesla back. As part of that settlement, $735 million would be returned to Tesla in cash, shares, and canceled stock options. And when you add foregone compensation to the mix, that bumps the total settlement value to over $900 million. I think that's a very important point to keep in mind, as now too many people are pointing the finger at Robin, saying she has no belief in Tesla's future, and I really think that could not be further from the truth. From Brad Sloan's video, we saw a new Tesla Semi Megacharger across the street from Giga Texas. The plan, at least publicly for Tesla, is to adopt the megawatt charging standard, the MCS version 2, for the Tesla Semi, which will be nice, and hopefully we can have the whole industry using the same standard from the beginning. And at the most recent keynote, Tesla did say that this MCS standard will have up to 1.2 megawatts of charging power, and on the hardware side, there will actually be some crossover between Tesla's V4 posts and the MCS. And we know that Tesla has 46 different megawatt charging hubs under construction or in the approval process right now. Those 46 locations are set to be added to Tesla's public network in early 2027. Alexander and I had the same question, why wouldn't there be a pull-through for the trailer? But Dan Priestley said on X, charging configuration varies by site and operation. The bobtail without the trailer charging is often best for sites where the truck is domiciled and charging between shifts. Pull-through for on-road charging or where the tractor and trailer stay married. Over the weekend, Tesla was offering those 48-hour test drives, and by many accounts, it sounds like that was a big success with a lot of interest. Now, whether it was people really thinking about buying a Tesla or just looking for a free weekend car rental, that's up for debate. But now some customers are getting this notification saying that these experiences are now limited to one per person. So it's likely safe to assume this program was being abused. But all I'll say is we know what happens when you get butts in seats. We have Bloomberg reporting that Tesla is poised to begin its long-awaited Robotaxi service in Austin on June 12th. This, according to someone familiar with the matter. They did say this date was discussed internally and could still change, as Elon's public comments have been the service would begin by the end of June. But in preparation for the launch, Tesla this week operated a test vehicle on public roads in Austin with no one in the driver's seat for the first time. A Tesla engineer was riding in a passenger seat of the Model Y, which drove autonomously with no remote operation. The only other thing they mentioned was the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, which regulates rideshare services, does not currently list Tesla as a rideshare licensee. However, as we've discussed in the past, this process in Austin can take anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks, so it's not a long turnaround. Bloomberg didn't report on this, but I'm hearing from my sources that the real reason Tesla chose this day was because because it's my birthday and it's really the least they can do for my years of service. But I couldn't get that out without laughing before finishing. Yes, it is actually my birthday, but I was obviously just joking about that, so even more reason to celebrate. I will say I am not a big birthday guy, but this one may be pretty special if Tesla can stay on schedule. Then about 2 hours down the road from Giga Texas, we have Tesla's new Megafactory site in Brookshire that is currently under construction. Say what you will about Tesla's auto demand right now, but on the energy side, things are not slowing down and they're continually expanding. I'd guess this site will be done in the middle of 2026 with production starting in the second half of next year, and that will be Tesla's third Megafactory site in production. Again, just to touch on all of these headlines briefly because we did just have the ACEA data come out and we are going to touch on that later, but for now, all of these headlines about Tesla's sales plunging across Europe. As I've been saying now for 2 to 3 months, for me, I'm really waiting until June data at the earliest, and honestly, I want to see data for Q3. Hopefully that's a much cleaner quarter as we won't have any impact from the changeover to the new Y. The primary reason, as we've been saying, it takes Tesla time not only to spin up new production for the Y, but to actually send these new units around the world to restock its inventory in certain locations. So is there some amount of Tesla brand damage causing these numbers from January through April? Yes, absolutely. It's not zero, but it's also not 100% of the reason either. Rather than looking at 1 month because you'll have export decisions in that data throwing things off a bit, Tesla's sales have been down about 40% year over year during the period of January through April. That number is across Europe. Many of us love Tesla in part because of its first principles approach and how that plays out over time in the products Tesla offers. A quick look around the auto industry and it's glaringly obvious most companies do not operate like this, which is why I always look for signs of companies taking the Tesla approach, and it's part of why I'm still happy to share AG1, the sponsor of this video. Their AG1 Next Gen is now out and better than ever with even more clinical backing. AG1 Next Gen was in multiple gold standard clinical trials, and this new version does not have any artificial sweeteners, added sugar, erythritol, or MSG. A fun fact, vitamin D3 is also best absorbed in liquid form, and it's more effective when taken with vitamin K2. That's why AG1 offers this exact pairing in liquid form, and I drop it right in, and all AG1 customers get this as well. The travel packs have been redesigned, thankfully, making them a lot easier to pour. And if you're deep into the health world, you'll be pleased to know AG1 Next Gen now includes molybdenum, boron, choline, and myo-inositol, which help to support cellular metabolism and your nervous system. So if you'd like to check out the upgraded formula and get some free travel packs and that 1-year supply of vitamin D3 K2, you can head to drinkag1.com/electrified linked below, or you can use the QR code on the screen. Cheers. Parts of this story have been talked about a lot the past few days, so we'll just stick to high levels, but we now have Brazilian prosecutors suing BYD and 2 of its contractors. They're arguing that BYD has been responsible for human trafficking and conditions analogous to slavery at a factory construction site in Brazil. They said some workers slept on beds without mattresses and 1 toilet was shared by 31 people. Prosecutors said the workers had up to 70% of their salaries withheld and faced high costs to terminate their contracts. This factory was set to be BYD's first EV plant outside of Asia. And yes, this is the BYD that many media pundits have been hyping up over the past few months as the superior alternative to Tesla, which, as most of us here know, is just pure insanity. But there's more. On the home front, Chinese regulators are summoning automakers to talk about zero-mileage used car sales. China's Commerce Ministry will meet industry bodies and automakers makers, including BYD. This to discuss increasing sales of used cars that were never driven. Part of this problem may be stemming from a years-long price war, and they call this phenomenon second-hand cars with zero mileage. This involves cars that had been registered and had license plates marking them as sold but had never been driven and were ultimately sold in the second-hand market. The tactic was seen as a potential method within the industry for automakers and dealers to support new car sales as they try to meet aggressive targets. Again, I find it pretty interesting. The media was all over a few of those parking lots where they had Teslas quote-unquote piling up. And yes, many of those Tesla lots have since been cleared out and those vehicles have found homes. Regardless, Tesla was punished in the media for all of that, but meanwhile, BYD may have been busy engaging in very suspect, questionable practices like this. Now, unfortunately, I doubt we'll ever get the full truth on what's really happened and what's going to happen with this whole situation, but just remember, Chinese auto sales figures may be requiring an asterisk. Additionally, I'm sure many of you saw BYD also cut prices by as much as 34% on 22 of its different models. For now, the promotion is set to run through June, and we already have other companies like Geely, Leapmotor, and others rushing to match BYD's discounts. We also have BYD's inventory ballooning at the end of March, up 33% quarter over quarter. An analyst said if no one steps in to cool things down, the second half of 2025 could become an all-out cost-cutting bloodbath. As we've talked about dating to last year, consolidation in the EV market in China was basically a foregone conclusion. They spun up and subsidized so many new companies, and we knew that only a few in the end would actually survive. It's also important to note how long it's taking some of these Chinese automakers to actually pay their suppliers. In 2022, it took BYD on average 219 days, which is already a long time, and then in 2023, that number was up to 275 days. XPeng also going the wrong direction from 179 to 221, and same with NIO, going from 247 to 295. And at that point, it might make more sense to call this a loan than a payment to suppliers. Tesla, on the other hand, went from 112 days down to 101. And according to Tesla's VP in China, Grace Tao, she said that Tesla's payment terms to suppliers are now down to 90 days as of late 2024. And the Financial Post had reported that BYD's supply chain financing was masking ballooning debt. They said some suppliers don't mind the wait because they themselves can borrow against that money that's owed using BYD as a sort of collateral. And I'm guessing you can see how that can get out of hand quickly. But for investors trying to figure out the financial intricacies around a company as big as BYD, the nature of these obligations is unclear. So you put it all together and the house of cards may be slowly collapsing in China. Tesla Chan shared a video of Tesla now using unsupervised FSD at the end of the factory line to the outbound lot at Giga Berlin. This now means Tesla vehicles drive themselves from the factory line to the outbound lot at Giga Texas, in Fremont, and now at Giga Berlin. At the same time, Germany is planning to launch its first public transport service operated by autonomous cars this Wednesday. This will be to the south of Frankfurt, and these shuttles will carry real passengers. This program is called Kira, and it's a pilot project between the Deutsche Bahn and the Rhine-Main public transport network. Germany's transport minister said autonomous driving on local public transport is essential to guarantee mobility for all and improve quality of life. While this should be an encouraging sign for Tesla's future unsupervised in Germany, something tells me Tesla may face some extra challenges with that rollout. On FSD, JC shared a pretty cool video of 13.2.9 pulling off to the side of the road for an emergency vehicle. FSD stopped while it was raining and then proceeded on its own once the emergency vehicle passed.
Well, Cleveland's definitely, oh, look at that. Is that getting over for an emergency vehicle?
I don't know.
Hold on a second.
I was like, oh my god, are we getting pulled over? What the hell happened?
No, we moved over for an emergency vehicle.
Yeah,
now, is it going to get back out though? And it is. Wow. Wow. Okay.
So are you from Texas?
I've never really seen behavior like that, so that's pretty awesome to see. Maybe Tesla now has these sounds being taken in from the environment to help with maneuvers like that, and in a storm nonetheless. Drive Tesla Canada said Tesla appears to be virtually sold out of pre-tariff Model Y inventory in Canada, both the legacy versions and the new model. So whether it's tariffs or new production ramp challenges, either way, situations like this in Canada and likely other parts of Europe play a role in the availability of Teslas, and if there's no inventory to buy, then you're not going to have sales. iPhone users will like this one. Tesla is now releasing an update that will provide live supercharging updates. It'll show the current state of charge, how much time is remaining, and the price of the current session. So if you're in a store or outside somewhere, you can just pull out your phone and see on the lock screen or through your notifications or even on the dynamic island at the top of your phone the status of your current charging session. And my guess would be that this feature will roll out to Android users in the weeks ahead. We got the weekly number for Tesla China. It came in at 11,000 units compared to the same week in Q1. That number was 6,900. Thus, quarter over quarter, Tesla China is now up 2.2%. But compared to the same week in quarter 2 last year, that number was 13,200. So now year over year, Tesla China is down 23% for the quarter. If we zoom out and look at the year-to-date figures, Tesla China is down 6.8%. The split for this week was 3,600 Model 3 and 7,400 Model Y. Just to add to the confusion of what's going on with the new Model S and X vehicles, these were spotted a new blue color on the S and X. Naturally, there's some debate if this was a wrap, but the Kilowatts has confirmed they believe it is not, and that it is indeed a new paint color. And yes, it's similar to Glacier Blue, but it's definitely different. And part of the reason I think it is a new paint color is because Franz has said in the past that he wanted to bring a color like Glacier Blue to the US. It's a decent color, even in the shade like this, but let me know what you guys think. This could be a pro tip. Tesla Dashcam said if you add clear parking lines in your garage, even with tape, your Tesla can park perfectly every time. So perhaps an idea to try. If any of you do this, let me know how it goes. If it doesn't go well, I cannot be held responsible. GM is set to invest $888 million in a propulsion plant, but the engines will use new combustion and thermal management innovations, aka they'll produce a new generation of V8 engines. We've been saying the winds are blowing in a direction where most of legacy auto will shift production back to hybrid and/or combustion, and here you go. And right on cue, today, Toyota is now targeting significant growth in plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. They said we're going to grow our PHEV volume through the lineup over the next few years. We love the PHEV powertrain. Sources said Toyota plans to increase PHEVs from 2.4% of its US sales volume last year to 20% by 2030. Again, if you've been following along, you will have known this was coming. David Sachs said, imagine you had a humanoid robot. You could teach it to do anything. When it recharged, it could upload its learnings on an anonymized basis to all the other robots. It could be the most powerful data network effect in history. Now, I want to quickly answer that question, was Elon lying? Because we have the data. So as a refresher, here's what he said.
Europe is our weakest market. We're strong everywhere else.
But sales still down compared to this time last year?
In Europe.
In Europe, okay. And
yes, but that's true of all manufacturers. There's no exceptions.
So here is the most recent data we just got from the ACEA. We can look at January through April. We'll skip ahead to new car registrations by manufacturer for the EU, EFTA, and the UK. So year to date through April, Volkswagen Group is up 4.5% compared to the same time last year. Stellantis down 9.6%. Renault up 7.7%. Hyundai down 3.4%. Toyota down 6.6%. BMW up 2.3%. Mercedes down 4.5%. Volvo down 11.6%. SAIC Motor up 31.2%. Tesla down 38.8. So as you can see, from the manufacturer level, there are indeed at least a few companies that have higher sales through the first 4 months of 2025 than they did in 2024. Meaning, yes, if you want to be very technical, because Elon said there are no exceptions, that yes, he was lying, or at the very least, he was wrong. Now, if he didn't say there were no exceptions, of course, we would have no problem with this, because directionally, he's absolutely correct. That's because only 5 of the 19 car companies listed at the group level are actually positive during this time. Said another way, 75% of these companies are indeed facing lower sales year over year so far. So to me, he really was just trying to drive the point home that auto sales across the EU are weak across the board, and that's absolutely true. But I do prefer when people are very careful and precise with their words, especially Elon, given how much scrutiny and unnecessary attention he gets all the time. But when he said that in that interview, I was eager to find out if that was actually accurate, and my answer would be no, and there's my rationale for why. Zooming out to the whole market year to date, new EU registrations were down 1.2% compared to the same time last year. And for full BEVs, they made up 15.3% of the share during that time, which is actually up from 12% the same time last year. Said another way, new BEV sales were up 26.4% during the first 4 months of the year. And as I've been saying, we'll find out soon enough if Tesla can rebound toward the end of Q2 and into Q3. What
do you think the chances are that XAI and the AI operation ultimately gets merged up with Tesla?
I think it's going to happen. And I think it's going to happen because Musk, even in my book, when he's starting XAI, when he's doing it, he's talking about, okay, these chatbots are fine, but what you need is real-world AI. You need to be able to not only take all the text that's ever been written, right, all the tweets that have been, but all the videos from Teslas and all the Optimus robots seeing and the hearing. And you will have real-world AI, and once again, that'll be 1 order of magnitude increase from what we're looking at now. And he feels the reason he wants a big pay increase, whatever, is he feels he has to control any company that's doing AI, and I suspect eventually you'll find
two related. One.
Gary Black, in his future fund, has now sold the remainder of his Tesla position at $358 a share. It's now the first time since 2021 they have not owned Tesla. We're not going to dive into his rationale, but he did lead it off saying Tesla's 2025 PE was 188. And of course, this is a prime opportunity for everybody to dunk on Gary. I totally understand it, given everything Tesla has around the corner. However, I wanted to share this just to play devil's advocate, because I know some people are getting very excited about what Tesla stock could do in the back half of this year. All I want to say, there is a world where this ends up being a buy the rumor, sell the news type of event. Meaning the market had tariff relief. It started to get excited about Tesla's robotaxi opportunities, and the market tried to front run that event. And even Elon himself has said that it's not really going to have a financial impact on Tesla until 2026 and beyond. And we know how closely this event will be watched, so anything that goes wrong is going to be amplified to the nth degree. So please don't misunderstand me here. In no way am I trying to justify Gary's decision selling. We also have to remember he runs a fund, so he's going to behave differently than a long-term investor. And look, I'm not even trying to argue I think it's a likely scenario, but there is a world where there's a better opportunity to buy in somewhere between 265 and 325 over the back half of this year. We also don't really know what the cost basis of those Tesla shares that Gary sold were. So all that to say, just proceed with caution, because I see on social media all the time people expecting Tesla stock to go crazy in June and throughout Q3 because Tesla finally has some robotaxis on the road. I'm just making the argument that there is a world where a lot of that is already priced in. And with that, Tesla stock closed the day at $356 $46.90, down 1.65%, while the NDX was down 0.45%. The volume was 15% below the average. Don't forget, check out AG1 Next Gen, linked below for those interested, and as always, I can't thank you guys enough for supporting the channel in this way. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video. If you did, you can find me on X, linked below, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.